Howdy everyone, my name is Oat Maelstrom, but most people know me as Oats. Today I'm going to discuss my ideal Hydroid rework because, let's face it, Hydroid needs a rework. A little background about me: I'm part of the Warframe Founders Program. I've played very consistently since then, but maybe not optimally, just consistent. Hydroid is my most played frame, although he is no longer my main. So what's the deal with Hydroid? Why does he need a rework? Well, at first glance, it's just, there's so much that needs changing that it can be difficult to pin down a vision for progress. I'm going to start with his theme and mechanical identity, then proceed to his passive and abilities, explaining what does and does not need to be changed with each. Hydroid's theme. If I were to sum up what I think Hydroid is supposed to embody in a tagline, I would say the terror of the sea. There's a reason that sailors are known for being superstitious. The ocean is terrifying. It's massive, untamable, unknowable. Hydroid, I think, should thematically embody that fear. Mechanically, I think Hydroid is supposed to be a crowd control and melee frame. All of his abilities do knockdowns, and his passive already interacts with melee. Conceptually, I like his abilities. I just think that the implementation needs a little bit more focus. And because of that, my rework is mostly mechanical. I think his theme, the Terror of the Sea, is a perfect fit, great theme for a warframe. So starting with his stats, I think he needs a slight armor increase, say to the 150, 175 kind of Oberon range. That'll give him that little boost to his survivability, which he needs as a melee frame. I'm not saying he needs a ton of armor like Valkyr or Atlas, just a little bump above the average. His health and shield values are fine where they're at if the armor gets changed. His passive, Deep Tendril, has a 50% chance to spawn a tentacle on melee ground slam. The issue I have with this is that it does not interact with the rest of his kit. All of his abilities do knockdown. Therefore, I think that Deep Tendril should be changed to the following. Ground finishers that do not outright kill the enemy will spawn a tentacle to deal additional damage to the target. In addition, if the ground finisher does kill the enemy, there's a 50% chance for a tentacle to spawn on the next nearest enemy to Hydroid. This will synergize with the knockdown in Hydroid's abilities and also provide reinforcement to his role as a melee frame. Another idea that struck me after seeing the Limbo rework is a modification to Hydroid's dodge roll. Hydroid transforms into a small wave whenever he uses the dodge roll. Think similar to Tidal Surge, but far, far less potent. It doesn't deal damage, and it doesn't knock enemies down. It does, however, stagger enemies, giving Hydroid the momentary advantage he needs in close-in melee attacks. Think of it like an unexpected wave at the beach. Not enough to knock you clean over, just throwing you off balance for a moment. Tempest Barrage, his first ability. The issue with this ability is the consistency. You're never sure if it's going to work as intended, and therefore you generally avoid using it while playing. I suggest changing Tempest Barrage so that it functions as a straight-line skill shot radiating out from Hydroid. The projectiles come down as something between a cannon barrage and sheets of rain. Strength increases the number of projectiles, duration increases the length of the area hit, and range increases the splash area of the projectiles themselves. Here's a poorly drawn image by me. I'm no artist and I know it, but a picture is still worth 1,000 words. The ability starts at the player's feet and proceeds toward the reticle. The red box narrows because the end of it is further away in perspective, but it's the same physical width in the game throughout. I think this will add much needed consistency to Tempest Barrage and make it an excellent setup ability for his melee or his other abilities. Tidal Surge, his second ability. Leave it. I think it's right where it needs to be. It's consistent, it's useful, great ability. If you were to change anything about this ability, then I would change the way it interacts with Parkour 2.0. When the ability finishes, it would be nice if you could immediately go into a bullet jump or other maneuver without having to wait. If you could bullet jump, wave, then bullet jump again, that would be amazing. Other than that, this ability does what it says on the tin, and it does it well. Undertow, the part we've all been waiting for. What do we do about the big puddle on the floor? The flaw in this ability is pretty obvious. It's the same issue that the original Mesa Ultimate had. There's no player agency while the ability is active. You just sit there and look around until you either get bored or run out of energy. So what do we change? I think the damage of the ability should be moved to a small percentage of the enemy's health over time, like 1% at max rank. So even if you max out the power strength, it will still be an inefficient way to kill enemies in and of itself. The point of the ability, in my opinion, is not to deal damage. It's an ability that, much like Tempest Barrage, sets up further action, either knocking nearby enemies down or gathering them together for some nasty AoE. To that end, I would introduce a new interaction between Hydroid's abilities. Activating Tidal Surge while Undertow is active will create a tidal wave that doesn't knock enemies back, but instead grabs them like flypaper and gathers them into Undertow. So you're in Undertow, you activate Tidal Surge and move the usual distance, but you grab enemies along the way and then store them in another Undertow at your destination. Think of it as a watery vacuum cleaner. This will help to hopefully alleviate the lack of player agency currently plaguing Undertow. I've got one more idea for Undertow, but we will save that for after we discuss the ultimate. Tentacle Swarm, Hydroid's ultimate ability. Currently, it defines an area in which tentacles will spawn underneath enemies, which then flap about wildly, and usually quite hilariously. The main issue here isn't that it doesn't work. It usually does. The issue is that it's not scary. Remember, Hydroid is supposed to be the terror of the sea, not the laughing stock of the sea. They just spawn and flap around and then despawn. I think the issue is that if you can just stand or sit and look at the monster, then your monster's going to lose all of its terrifying effect. There's no suspense. So how do we fix this? Well, Hydroid will still start by defining an area when he casts. However, tentacles don't immediately spawn underneath the enemies. Instead, as enemies linger within the area defined at the start of the ability, the chance that a tentacle will spawn for that enemy increases until it caps out and force spawns, or rolls the dice and spawns early. When a tentacle spawns, it grabs the enemy, lofting them into the air with it, hangs for just a split second to build suspense, and then slams the enemy straight into the surface from which the tentacle spawned, while simultaneously despawning. Basically, that. The chance that a tentacle will spawn for that enemy, if they survived, is then reset and will slowly build until it happens again. Finally, getting back to my other idea for Undertow, activating Tentacle Swarm while Undertow is active will massively increase the damage and power drain of Undertow. The point of view will move up to eye level, and Hydroid can target enemies with an Opticore-like charge attack. Accurately attacking enemies will grab them with a tentacle and pull them into the enhanced Undertow. Enemies that die while this ability is active restore energy, scaling inverse with efficiency. Power strength increases the damage, duration improves the efficiency, range improves the charge speed of the grab attack. Basically, you get to play as the Kraken. Very similar to the Mesa ult, but the charge up and aiming mechanics limit the speed at which you can kill enemies. If you aren't actively killing enemies, this will quickly deplete your energy. The charge up is not a release to grab, it's the Opticore style where when the circle completes it fires, so you can definitely miss. The range on the grab attack does not increase with power range, and the base range isn't huge, so you have to position yourself intelligently. This is more of a stretch goal change, not as vital as the other changes, though you gotta admit it'd be pretty cool. And with that, my Hydroid rework is complete. I think that these changes would reinforce the theme and mechanics that I believe are Hydroid's identity. I'm curious to see what direction his inevitable rework will go. If you want to comment on the content of this video, I will post it in a thread on the Warframe forums and provide a link to that thread in the description below. If you'd like to comment on the formatting of this video, please feel free to leave that comment on the YouTube side. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.